everyone, and welcome to the Koala Club podcast, a podcast made by and for international students in Australia. I am Kevin.
And I am Trang, and we talk about everything education, work, and lifestyle for overseas students in Australia. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Koala Club podcast. Welcome back, Kevin.
Hi, Trang. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, so today we are going to delve into the topic of buying a car as an international student. And oddly, I'm quite excited about this episode because when you mentioned this topic as an idea we could discuss, I was quite excited. I thought, yeah, it's something I didn't really think of when we were planning for our topics, and it's something that's definitely so informative because I'm sure when you're an international student and you first come to Australia, that would be one of the things you would think about is, because cars here are so cheap and everyone has a car, even like 16, 17-year-olds have a car. So definitely did cross my mind and my friends' minds that, should we get a car?
Yeah, definitely. It is very exciting for us as well. Like you said, we realized cars in here are so cheap compared to, say, where we come from. Like, because some countries around the world, and for example, where we are from in Vietnam, they have a very high tax bracket for cars. So like it almost like you're paying double or even triple for a car original price. So when we find out that cars in Australia is very attainable, I think it's very exciting. Like you can get your own car and you can drive everywhere, and that is a very exciting thing for like an 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah, but obviously there are a lot of considerations that need to happen before you buy that car, so hence this topic.
Yeah, that's right. There were so many things involved with buying a car before, and that's why we want to make this episode so we can give you all the information you need.
Yeah, so did you want to just talk us through your experience of buying a car here in Australia?
Yeah, sure. So I think I bought my first car in Australia in about 2016. It was actually my girlfriend's car together because we thought it's like instead of we trying to buy each of us a different car and maybe get like a quite old car with a few $1,000s, we can put money together and get a rather better one. So that's what we did. It was a Suzuki Alto, a little 4-seat car. Because the middle seat at the back seat is too small. They don't let us. There's no seat belt, so you can't sit there. We call it a Smurf, Auto Smurf, because it is a bright blue color, like the color of the Smurf in the Smurf cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call it a Smurf. We bought it for about 8,000 Australian dollars. It was very good price because the original price is around 14,000 or 15,000, so almost half price. We got a good deal because it was a lady owner. She only drove 2,000 kilometers. It was almost brand new. It's just that she didn't drive it anymore and just sat in her garage. So she wanted to sell it. We were very lucky because we didn't actually have a mechanic to go with us to check how the car works. We didn't know anything about cars back then, right? We just had like a little test drive. We look around the car. We did not check underneath the car because underneath the side is a little bit scuffed, but it's only cosmetic, but nonetheless it's still. And like I said, we were very lucky. After I bought the car works fine, and I think I had it until late 2021 when I sold it again for about 5,500, I think.
Wow, so you didn't make a big loss from it at all. It's only
2,500. Yes, and actually, I think thanks to COVID, the pandemic, it pushed the car prices up, and the secondhand car market goes crazy. So we sold like right at the peak of the secondhand car market. I think normally we would probably just get 4,000 or 3,000 for it, but because of that boost from the pandemic, we just the car prices going crazy in Australia after the pandemic.
Yeah, and we will talk about like where you can actually buy a car here in Australia, but just touching on your experience briefly, how did you find that car?
I remember we found it through Gumtree,
Mm.
I think, because back then I didn't even know. Like I don't think there was a Facebook Marketplace in 2016, and I didn't know about carsales.com. So all these dealer website, I just went on Gumtree because that's like a local eBay of Australia,
Yeah.
but like more local people selling things. So I would say it's quite trustworthy. Like you would get like normal people, everyday people selling their things there, and normally they have their description quite honest. So the description, when you buy a car, a lot of the time you get like a lady owner when it's like a man driving it to the ground and smoking in the car or something. But I was actually quite surprised when I say lady owner. It's actually a lady owner. She asked like her nephew or something to sell it, but it was actually her, and the car had only got 2,000 kilometers, so it was basically brand new. So that's why I got it from Gumtree.
Interesting. And yeah, lucky purchase as well. Yeah, so in terms of my experience, I also bought my first car here in 2016. So technically, I've already graduated then. So and technically, I wasn't an international student anymore, but it was still like my first experience of buying the car. And I bought it at the dealer, to the Toyota dealers where they sell secondhand cars.
So you actually went to the dealer?
Yeah, so where they just have like massive rows of cars that are secondhand,
Yeah.
and they have a big price on the cars.
Yeah. Was it a good experience?
Yeah, overall it was good experience, and I went with my boyfriend at the time, which is my husband now, who knows a lot about cars. So he knows a lot about cars, so it was good because I think if I went alone, I would probably be overwhelmed by all the choices and not sure what to look out for when buying a car. And again, we'll talk about this later in the episode about car dealers, but the car dealer was a little bit pushy in selling the car, and you just gotta be stern and firm as to which car you want, and you're only buying this and you're not buying extra stuff and stuff like that. So yeah, it was good experience overall, and I think it was a good purchase as well. It was a not that old car. I can't remember how much it was. But I'm still using it now, 6 years later. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, okay. So it's about 6 years. It's not long, but it's certainly not short for owning a car. Yeah, and how is it performing now? Like, have you got any issue with that at all?
No, luckily it's going good. Like, we didn't have to do any major things to it so far. It's just like changing the tires and just regular maintenance. But yeah, I think we've hit 160,000 Ks already.
Yeah, that's good. Still running well.
Yeah.
That's Toyota for you.
Yeah. Good brand. Not sponsored.
We wish. Cool. So, okay, so that leads us to the next part we want to talk about is perhaps the first thing when you want to buy a car in Australia is actually asking yourself, do you really need a car? I feel like everyone skipped this step because it's like, oh, let's get a car. And I have seen a lot of friends bought their cars, very exciting, and they ended up really didn't use it much. So the car just sat there in the garage, collecting dust, or worse, if they don't have a garage, the car would just sit out on the street, like parking off street, and all that rain and weather. And if you don't drive a car for a long time, the engine may run into problem. So yeah, all sort of problem. So before you buy a car, ask yourself, do you really need a car? And here's a few points for you to consider, assuming you already have a license, right? If you don't have a license and you say, oh, just buy a car and I get a license later, getting a license in Australia it's not gonna happen straight away, right? You need certain kind of test. You need to do tests. You need to book in the test, and then if you under 25, you need to do a certain number of hours learning drive. I think if you're a learner, so it could take a few months. What I'm saying, for you to get a license. So if you haven't got a license yet, try to get your license first, and then go buy a car.
So yeah, just really consider, like, assuming you already got your license now and you're like, okay, maybe I can get a car, but just really ask yourself, why do you need the car? Is it because you need to go grocery shopping, you need to go to work, and you need to go to uni, and you live in somewhere that's not that convenient to get public transport? Like, say where we are in Wollongong, like, we've got free buses and paid buses, and you can walk, but I guess some suburbs, like residential suburbs, could be a little bit far from the shops, from the uni, so it could be more convenient to get the car instead of having to walk 15 minutes to get the bus and then wait for the bus and then get to uni. But I mean, like, say if you live in Sydney or Melbourne, where public transport, like trams, buses, trains, is so convenient and not delayed most of the time, I hope.
Not recently.
No, not recently, but that's a different story. But theoretically, if it's on time and you can walk to most places or walk to get public transport, then maybe you do not need a car. So yeah, really ask yourself that question, whether your life would be improved by getting that car.
And I know that in major cities like Sydney or Melbourne, or any major CBD, right? A lot of like adults, a lot of people who already graduated and work for a long time, they don't even have a car. They don't even own a car because, firstly, parking in those cities is very expensive. And if you live in a apartment, for example, you may not always have a car spot, right? And another thing, that thing you mentioned is the public transport is just so convenient. And it's everywhere, so there isn't really a need for a car. And also, like, the Uber network in those cities is very strong, so every now and then, if you need to go out to a restaurant outside the suburb with a friend, instead of driving your car, you can catch a Uber or something. I think there was a study, survey about this, and it ended up, if you use Uber every now and then like that, it ended up to be cheaper than owning a car yourself.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I think the owning a car yourself is just the convenience. And also, like, say, if you go to a friend's house, or if you go to a restaurant together, you can give your friends a lift. You can pick up a few people, be the popular guy. If you, but otherwise, if you have no need for that, you can do just as well with no cars in major cities.
Yeah, and I think it just reminds me of, like, a story of some people I knew from Sydney who were about my age a couple of years ago, which was 26, 27. And they were only getting their learner's license then, but they live in Sydney. So then it made me, like, really compare to, like, say, kids here in Wollongong. They would get their license at 16, 17 because the car is so convenient to go around. But because they live in Sydney, it's like they didn't feel the need to get a car or drive until now. So it's just interesting, that comparison.
Yeah, exactly. Like in regional or cities where things are quite a little bit further from each other, getting a license to drive in early, like 16, 17, is really popular. And that's what I see as well in major cities. People don't feel the need of getting that license that early. Okay, so next thing to consider is financial considerations. So what is your budget? How much you can afford for your car, and how much you want to buy a car for the price. That way you can narrow the price range of your cars and maybe pick the model to suit your needs. And also the cost of buying a car is not just upfront cost, but you also have to factor in the ongoing commitment from it. We did a rough calculate, it's about $3,000 to $6,000 per year. Also, like, you have to have a sinking fund in case when you have, like, parking tickets or speeding tickets when you get fined.
Yeah, definitely learn to read the parking signs if you do get a car. But I guess just other incidentals like you drive to uni and you need to park at uni. That's at least $5-10 a day. If you go to the shopping mall, that's here in Wollongong, it's $3.50 an hour, and after that it's $10. So it does rack up if you have to go every day or every 2 or 3 days. Yeah, and just on the price range, it was interesting because I actually looked up to see what was the cheapest price on car sales in preparation for this episode. And I think the cheapest car was $900.
Really?
Yes, but it was a 1990 something model, and it had like 250,000 Ks on it. So just for our listeners, like when you hear $900 or $1,000 for a car, it can be really tempting to jump in and purchase the car, but then usually the cheaper cars would mean that they're older in model and the kilometers are very high, so it's been used quite a lot. So just something to consider, because it could be really appealing to go for a cheaper car.
Yeah, I find that for the normal average people like us, buying a cheaper car like that actually end up costing more than buying just a better and more expensive car, because the cost of maintenance is just too much. And unless you are professional mechanics, and you can like fix your cars up very quickly or do maintenance yourself, then you may be saving money if you buy a cheap car and do all the maintenance yourself like that. But if you're not and don't know that stuff very well, it could end up costing you quite a lot to do the maintenance and repair.
Yeah, definitely not cheap. Anything to do with mechanical repairs. So the other thing that I think we've touched on earlier about buying a car is actually where can you store the car? Because if you live in a crowded residential area, there may be only a few parking spots for the residents, so you have to park on the street. If you're really lucky, you probably have a garage that's attached to your unit or apartment, so that's a bonus. But yeah, really think about that, because as you said before, if you park it on the street, it just collects dust, it gets weather damage, and here we have large hailstorms, so ice falling from the sky. You definitely do not want that to damage your windscreen. So
and they're quite big, and that also affect the price you pay for the insurance as well, right? So if you park outside on the street, you will pay higher price for your car insurance as well. So that's one thing to consider.
Yes, it all has a knock-on effect. Okay, so once you've decided that, okay, I really want the car, it's gonna add to my quality of life and all that, I'm ready, where can you actually buy the car and what you should know about it? First option is to go through a private sale. So nowadays you look online, there's a lot of platforms where you can look for used cars. So Facebook Marketplace is big, just watch out for scams. Gumtree, which I think Kevin can probably talk more about because you bought your car through Gumtree. And I guess other buy and sell groups on Facebook, connections, people you know. But just be wary that through a private sale, this does not guarantee the quality of the car. So you need to be really wary of what to look out for when inspecting the car, because if you didn't inspect it properly and there are issues afterwards, unfortunately, there's not much you can do. Yeah, like a friend I know, he bought a car through some guy in Sydney, I think. And afterwards, then he found out there was all these issues that it's not worth selling the car because you will get much for it. But then to repair it, it's probably the cost of the car itself when you bought it. So it's like double the price. So it was a really tough spot. So yeah, it just made me super wary of buying cars through private platforms.
Yeah, now I really advocate for just get a professional mechanic to come with you to inspect your car. Like have a look at the cars, the posting on that website. Have a look at all the photos, all the description, do your own research first, have a look at the person selling the car's profile to see if they are genuine account. And then if you really like it and decide like, yeah, there's a good chance I'm going to buy this car, then get a mechanic to inspect it. It may cost you $50 to $100, but in the long run, it will save you a lot of money and pain going through that process.
I didn't even know that that was an option.
Yeah, or I didn't know, but I guess I was just, I was an international student, so $100 back there is still a
Mm.
lot for us. And I guess I was got like really lucky to get a genuine, but there was a lot of people selling, like I said, who lie about the car, who it could got engine problem and they wouldn't tell you.
Mm.
And then if if you buy it and it got breakdown, then it broken down, then it's too bad. And also have that professional mechanic will give you the flexibility to negotiate, right? Say if the mechanic say, oh, there's this problem and
Mm.
but I can fix it, then you can probably say to the owner, like, this little bit problem will cost me this much money to fix. I want $500 off the car or something. I guess with that point that you mean, like, for the private group it is easier to negotiate than the car dealer itself.
Yeah, because I think with the car dealers, it's pretty much fixed unless your persuasion and negotiation skills are quite up there. But through a private sale, like if someone's listed their car for 6 months and they really want to get rid of it, you probably can get lucky to negotiate downwards.
Yep.
So I guess there is that flexibility as well.
Yeah, and talking about car dealers, like they got higher markup as well because they got, they're running a business, so they can't really go. The price they list is already included all their markup, so they have like little room to negotiate unless they really really want to clear out stock. But then with private sellers, you have more rooms to negotiate because more often than not they don't have to pay, a clerk, an admin or something, so they don't have that overheads.
Yeah.
Another thing with negotiating the price at the car dealership, some car dealership will have these display models when they used to, like, give people test drive and to show the car, and it may sit on the shelf, sit in display model for 1 or 2 years already, and they just want to clear the stock of that year out. So if you don't mind buying a display model, it's basically brand new, and they still need to do all sort of check to make sure it's working properly, before sell it to you. Easily, I think you can get a bigger discount off a brand new car. A lot of the case, even 20 to 30%. That could be a good point to consider if you're looking to buy a rather new car at a car dealership.
Good point, Kevin. Something to worth noting.
Okay, so next one is car sale websites. This one have private sales too. One of the example in Australia is carsales.com.au. Yeah, I have never tried this website, but recently I looked at this website. They're pretty informative and they have all the information you need about the car, so it looks quite trustworthy.
Yeah, I haven't used this website before as well, but it's like the biggest car sales website in Australia, I think. And I guess it's like eBay for cars. But yeah, but at the end of the day, it is private sellers selling the car. So I guess all the points we mentioned about private sales still applies, but maybe there is more guarantee being that it was listed on car sales.
Yeah, would you probably more formal way, like it probably give the sale more credit, but nonetheless you have to still go through the same process checking and get the mechanics to inspect the car.
Yeah. And I guess just hearing about all these stories about private sales makes me lean more towards car dealers. So this is like the next point we want to talk about, where you can actually buy a car. So car dealers in Australia basically are, I guess, big stores that sell cars, new and secondhand. So we've got, I think there's two types. One is brand specific dealers. So where they only sell one brand, like they're a Toyota dealer, so they only sell Toyota cars. But then there are like more private car dealers that sell a variety of cars from different brands. So if you want more variety and you want to pick and choose which car you like, then that's probably the better option. But if you're really set on getting a Toyota, then go check out a Toyota dealer. But the one thing that I learned from buying my car through a car dealer is that they will be quite pushy, because obviously they want you to buy the car, and they will try and sell you all these additional accessories and all these extra tinting that will cost an extra few grand, and they will try and sell you car financing. So that's where you get a loan for the car through them or their finance partner companies. But just be wary that the interest rate on these loans, it might sound very appealing because you're like, oh, I don't have to pay anything up front. I just have to pay $500 a month for the next 5 years. But the interest rate, the inherent interest rate is quite high. It could be from 5 to 12%. So I think it's probably more advisable if you're an international student to pay with the money you have and not get into any of these loans, because interest rates can add up, and say later on you out of a part-time job, you're struggling to pay rent, and then you still got to pay the car loan. It's just additional extra stress to your life.
Yeah, it could be a lot of stress. And also like getting a car loan will affect your credit history and credit score as well. And if something goes bad, then it will go into your bad credit record. I'm not 100% sure how this will affect international students, but my view is that if you're an international student in Australia, you just want to keep all your records clean whatsoever, so you don't really want to get into a risk of having a bad credit record just for the sake of buying a car. So I would always advocate buying with your money for international students, and even for people. Let's just keep things simpler. You avoid that stress from the high interest rate and the risk of not being paying and get a bad credit report later.
Yeah, and it is very appealing because some of the car loans are approved on the spot. So you actually don't have to give that much info. You don't have to wait that long for it to be approved. And you might really find it really appealing to just go, okay, I'll just buy the car and just worry about the financing later. But no. Yeah, but I guess the positive about buying the car through a car dealer is that the car is in like a good condition, and say if you bought it and you notice there's something wrong, you can always go back and they can fix it up for you or do something to compensate you for it. So I think that would probably give a lot of peace of mind. But again, when we were talking about it before, I'm not sure how much you can negotiate it by.
Quick story, an old colleague of mine in my old job in Sydney, he bought a new Mazda like SUV from a car dealer, and it was very unlucky with that car because it keeps breaking down with different things, different minor things, and he has to keep going back to the dealer probably 4 or 5 times. But what I'm saying is they at the end they still fix it. So like he brought it back, right, and then told them the error, the problem, and they say, okay, we fix it, we order the new part and replace it for you. So at the end he still got the car fixed all for free, because that's the car dealer promise, right? I think they got like 2 or 3 years or even 5 years if you can negotiate of the warranty, so they can fix all that damage for you for free. So that's the good thing about car dealership, is generally more reliable than private sales in terms of after sales service. And you mentioned before, Chang, about negotiating the price with car dealers. So when you bought your car, did you negotiate price with them?
I honestly can't remember. I was trying to rack my brain and I'm like, I can't remember.
It's like, those little change, I'm too rich.
No.
I don't remember those change.
Oh, it was only a few thousand, so I didn't remember. No, I'm kidding. My memory is just getting worse and worse. Side story, so I feel like I'm just losing my memory.
No, I don't blame you. It was 6 years ago, so it was quite a long time ago.
I'll ask my husband and come back to you, see if he remembers.
I think for me, private sales, I think I did negotiate, but not as hard as I could. Because it was our first time buying a car. I think they were asking for 8,500, and we say, can we pay 8,000? And they say, okay. And that is when you know that you negotiate badly, because if they quickly say, yep, okay, no worries, then you're still buying it at a higher price than you could. But anyway, it's okay. It was our first car. So with car dealer, I feel like maybe you can, on a general rule, like it depends on how expensive the car is as well, right? But normally you can probably ask for 5 to 10% discount. Do you feel the same? Probably depend on the market as well. So maybe not in this market. In this market, it's still quite hot. But I have seen the market comes down a little bit, and I know people buying new and second-hand car now can ask for like maybe 2 to 5% off. But in a hot market like the one right after the pandemic, there's no way you can get any discount at all. But one of my friend bought her car in one of the car dealership probably 1 year before we bought our car. I remember she got a good deal, like she got maybe a few $100 knock off the price, but also because she does this financing and it was a bad market for the dealer, so they really want to sell cars and they offer her like 0% finance, so like she can pay off the car in 3 years or 5 years without any interest. So that's what it is with a dealership. In terms of negotiation, it's not just about price. If you finance, you can negotiate a lower interest rate as well. And also you can negotiate the add-ins, is like if they offer 3 years warranty or service, you can ask for 5 years. And then if they have all these accessories that they keep trying to upsell you, like install a roof rack for $500, get window tinted, all that sort of stuff, you can actually ask like, can you do that for cheaper price or even free? And some of them would, just to get the car to be sold.
Sounds good. Maybe we should do another episode on negotiations, because I know your negotiation skills at JV Hi-Fi is up there.
You were quite surprised when I told you we can negotiate price at
yeah, that's something I did not know. So maybe we need to do a short episode on this.
That's it. Bring that bargaining power. Okay, so I think that covers pretty much everything when you need to where you can buy a car and what you should know from those sources. And obviously there's probably other sources as well, but we just mentioned the most popular one here. So after you bought your car, what's next then? Because I remember when I was buying a car, I thought that's it. I thought like after I paid the money and got the car, that would be the end. I drive to the sunset happily ever after, but it wasn't like that. I was actually quite surprised or caught off guard with all this after sale costs and also after sale process, because there's quite a lot of them. So first off, you have to register the car at the service center. Like, depends on your state. I think nowadays you can do it online pretty much everywhere. So before you pay the money and get the car, right, or before you go even inspect it, you need to know the process of transferring ownership for the car. For example, if you live in New South Wales, go on the Service New South Wales website and read about transferring ownership for a car. Make sure you gather all the documents that they ask for from yourself, and make sure the sellers have their required documents as well in order to have a smooth transfer of ownership process. Because you don't want to buy a car and then go back home and go, okay, let's register it, and find out that you're missing the driver license number or some important document required from the seller, and then you have to ring them back again and chase them up and get those documents. And if they already sold the car, they no rush to give you those documents. So if you're really, really unlucky, that could be a painful process. So better get on top of it first.
Yeah, and I haven't had that experience where I bought it from a private seller, because we bought it from a car dealer. But I remember we just had to go to the service center and register it, because I guess the owner of the car was the car dealer. So it wasn't as much of a painful process for us. But one interesting thing, because each car will come with a number plate, and the one that we got was, I think it was BX13 TT or something. And because, I don't know if you're superstitious, but to me 13 is like an unlucky number.
Unlucky number 13.
Yeah, so we actually asked the service center if we could swap the the number plate for another one. So we picked something better. So it's just a side tip for anyone if you want to change your license plate.
What did you pick? 88848.
Unluckily,
all this lucky number that we bring wealth. Is that why you don't remember how if you bring negotiate at all?
No, they only give you like 3 or 4 options of license plates to pick. So I think I picked something with number 10. So that was the best option out there.
10 from here.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good thing to say. Yeah, and that's that level of details. You know what I mean? Like, you may not, if you not pay attention in that, and you go home, you're not happy with your number plates, then maybe it's another painful process to go through. So better check everything first to make sure you're happy.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the more painful, or I guess expensive part, is the ongoing costs. So this is what you have to pay every year in addition to the upfront cost of buying a car. So I'll just go through them pretty quickly. So we've got the registration, or in short, rego. So this is to register your car every year, and it's about $300 to $400. And if your car is, I think, past a certain year where it was made, like if it's a certain year old, then you have to pay inspection fees to the mechanic as well, so that they can deem it roadworthy for another year. So that's an additional $50 around that.
So the rego is green slip, right? And the safety thing is called pink slip. That's the terms. Do you know about that?
I do, but it's like so confusing with all the colors.
Yeah,
so
I know, and but yeah, basically you pay a cheaper fee for the mechanics. Could be your local mechanics, because almost all mechanics provide this. They just do a quick check, and they probably charge you $50, and they stamp, the car is roadworthiness, and then you can go online to renew your registration, because they're gonna ask for that. If your car passes a certain, was it 5 or 10 years? I don't want to give a number because I'm not sure, but there, and it could be different from state to state as well. And most of the time, if you're an international student, you may buy a second-hand car, so that fee could very well be applied for you. The next thing you need to take care of is insurance. So there are two kinds of insurance for the car here. So first one is, everyone have to buy this insurance called compulsory third-party CPT insurance. It costs about $300 to $400. It is highly recommended. Not everyone. Some people don't buy it, but I think it's very silly not buying this, because that is the insurance for the other person. If you in case of an accident. So like if you in an accident, on road accident, and you are at fault. So like if you hit a car with your car, then that insurance will pay for the repair of the other person's car. So you don't have, you still have to pay, but not the full amount. You pay an excess. It's normally $700, $800 excess. And the insurance sir will pay the rest for you. So this insurance does not cover your own car, because if you want to cover your own car, you have to buy comprehensive insurance, and that may cost double or triple. So that may cost anywhere between $700 to $1,200, or even more if your car is in a certain category. So with that insurance, if you're in an accident, then you are covered for your car as well. And I highly recommend buying this kind of insurance, because that way you're at peace of mind that when you drive, that if anything bad happen, the person on the other end got covered and yourself got covered.
Yeah, to emphasize that, both types of insurances are highly recommended, so please do really think about getting both of them. And I think with the comprehensive insurance, it's like and again, shop around. There's a lot of insurance providers. Some will be cheaper than others. But the really cheap ones, you just gotta read the terms and conditions to make sure that it really covers you for what it's saying, and if there's any like exclusions and stuff like that. But generally, you do like a questionnaire where you like say where you live, where the car is going to be stored, in the garage or out in the street, and the year of the car, the model, the color. And actually, this is an interesting point, but did you know that white cars would, like the insurance premium on white cars is less expensive than other colored cars?
Yeah, I know. Because the reason is when you drive in at nighttime, white car is easier to spot.
Yep.
I didn't know this as a start, but when I was picking the color for our second car, because I was driving up to Sydney a lot for work, from my research, I realized that at nighttime it's better to drive like a, bright color, and best is not a white color, so that you can be seen easier. So yeah, in terms of safety, it is very good as well to choose a white car, and that's why it is more popular in selling website, and also it has less cost in insurance. And also insurance, if you get like a sedan car, so if your car is go faster, for example, than compare between a Toyota Camry, a sedan and an SUV, for example, the sedan may cost you more in insurance because they deem like more sporty, like there's all sort of weird things the insurer use to assess, but basically they say like this car is go faster, so there's higher risk of getting in an accident rather than an SUV or something.
Wow, that's really interesting. I did not know that. The other type of, I guess, insurance, and this is not compulsory, but it's good to have, is called roadside assistance. So this is where, like, say if you break down in the middle of the highway, or you accidentally lock your keys in the car and you can't get in, then you get this roadside assistance where someone from the insurance company will drive out to you and help you, or even like changing your tire, like on the freeway or something. Kevin, I believe you have a few stories to share about how roadside assistance saved you.
Yeah, I have 2 times. Like, I know I said that my Suzuki Smurf served as well, but now when I was doing the No Choice episode, I remember back and I was like, oh, it actually broken down twice. It's not broken down, but one time it had a flat tire, so something, some of the sharp thing poked into one of the tire. I didn't know, and when I drove out to the road, then I found out. So that's when I called the roadside assistance. I think we were with NMA back then, so we were with the insurer, NMA, and we as part of the insurance, we buy this little extra service. I think it cost about $70 back then, $70 a year or something. So I think it's worth it, because I called the roadside assistance, and literally maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, they are there. They are really, really fast. And it's basically a mechanic with his tool, with his ute, with all the tools box at the back, and he just like quickly changed my tire, fix everything up right there on the spot, and and I'm back to the road in less than half an hour. So it was really, really good, and all for free because I bought that. If I haven't bought that roadside assistance, a call out fee like that probably cost the same. Probably gonna be $7 to $100. $70 to $100 already. So I highly recommend buying roadside assistance. It costs you little compared to the insurance itself over a year, but you have that peace of mind that if your car broken down and you got it fixed. Oh yeah, the other time it was just a small engine problem. It wasn't major, but I believe it was just a minor problem, and I got that fixed as well. The same experience. So very happy with that.
Yes, must have, I think.
Yeah, and good that after that it ran like perfectly, never broke down again. So, and I sold it ready, so finger crossed it keep running well for the new owner.
That's the insurance and all the paperwork stuff, and I think the other ongoing costs are like more obvious common ones like fuel. Depending on how far you drive, you may need to fuel up once a week, twice a month, whatever. But we all know fuel prices are going up around the world, so something extra to plan for in terms of your budgeting.
Yeah, fuel is very expensive these days, right? So that is a big cost to consider. So that is actually a big factor to consider as well when you decide what kind of car you want to buy. Because if you want to buy a very big SUV with V6 engine or something like that, it could cost you double or triple in fuel compared to just a normal car, or even a more fuel efficient car like a hybrid, for example. That could save you a lot of money in the long term for fuel. With maintenance, right? It's I'll say it's good to get like a local mechanic that you trust, and you may pay a little bit more each time you service. So that could be every 6 months or every 1 year. But I think you will save a lot more, because if you just find the cheapest mechanics, and it could get dodgy and they could do a rush job, and you may end up need to service more time in a year than you should.
Yeah, so maintenance and car parts, it depends on how lucky you are, I guess, or how unlucky you are with the car. If you need to maintain it more and there's more things going wrong, or you need to change lots of parts in the cars, but it could really add up to a few $100s, or even in the thousands if there's something majorly wrong. So just something to keep your eye out for, and just keep your emergency money there in case you need to have unexpected bills.
Yep. And I see your note. The last note you put in here is the time spent on it, right? Because also time is money. So how much time you spend? Oh, I should ask, how much time your husband spend on maintaining your car, Jack, or washing it?
Oh, well, fun fact, I wash the cars.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so...
Oh, sorry.
No, but you're right. Like, time spent on it is actually a lot of time. If you want to wash it like weekly, that's 1 or 2 hours each week. And again, it depends on where you live as well. If you live in an apartment and you don't have any like yard space to wash your car, you need to take it to the car wash and wash it and pay money, or pay more money for someone else to wash it for you, right? So that's extra time and money. And yeah, maintaining, again, depending on how lucky you are with the car. If it's just like little jobs, it could just take half an hour just to fill up the water in the windscreen, stuff like that. But yeah, time that you don't really expect that you need to spend, but you do need to spend.
Yeah, that's right. And I check out that the washing places that it's not really washing, but it's auto washing. You just drive the car in slowly,
Yes.
and all this water and jet, and I tried once. It was cheap, like it was probably $10 compared to, say, if you bring it to a car wash proper shop. It probably costs you $50 to $100, depends on where you go to, right? So it's cheaper, but when I go back home, I still find dust everywhere, right? And fun fact, like I don't remember who, but I saw someone who go through that process with two people, right? One person drive the car in, and the other person just like wear waterproof clothing or something, like a raincoat, and just get outside and scrub it themselves very quick when all that jetting happens. So they get wet, but they make sure the car is sparkle clean. So I don't know if that's worth like a completely that experience, but yeah, I probably would rather wash a car myself at home or bring it to a car wash shop. Yeah, it could take you, I don't know, if you're really good at it, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes to half an hour washing the car. If you get really detailing, maybe an hour. So that's the time you spend as well. But yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, good to know about the automatic washing thing, because I did want to try it because it looked fun and it looks like minimal effort required.
Yeah, maybe you can drive the car in and your husband can, be the person outside scrubbing your car.
Sounds like a fun experience. Alright, well, that was our episode on buying a car as an international student, but really it could be applicable to most people. But we hope it was useful information for you, because it definitely was good of us to put it together. I felt like it was quite informative for me as well, to just jog my memory as to, if I want to buy another car, what should I consider? So hope it was somewhat useful for you. Alright, well, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do share it around with your friends. And if you haven't followed us on our social media, please do at the Koala Club Podcast. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye.